You know what no one tells you, that the deeper you feel, the lonelier you become. That understanding more doesn't free you, it isolates you. That the pain of thinking, of truly seeing, is a weight most people will never carry. And you carry it in silence. Because how do you explain to someone that you're drowning in a room full of air, that you're exhausted from a battle no one else can see, that you've been running from yourself for so long, you've forgotten what you were running toward? Kierkegaard called it the sickness unto death. Not a sickness of the body, but of the soul. A despair so quiet, so invisible, that you can smile through it, work through it, live through it, and still be dying inside. This isn't about sadness. It's about something older, something truer. It's about the pains that come with being awake in a world that prefers to sleep. Søren Kierkegaard understood something most philosophers missed. He understood that truth isn't just an idea, it's a wound. He wrote about despair, not as a symptom of weakness, but as proof of depth. He said that to despair is to be human, to not despair, to feel nothing. That's the real tragedy. He believed we spend our lives running from ourselves, building masks, playing roles, pretending we're fine. And the deeper your soul, the heavier that pretense becomes, because you feel the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be, between the life you're living and the life you know you should be living. Kierkegaard called this the despair of not willing to be oneself. And it's everywhere. In the person who stays in the job that's killing them. In the one who loves someone they don't respect. In the soul who knows the truth but chooses the lie, because the truth is too terrifying. This is the existential anguish he spoke of. Not depression, not sadness, but a deep, gnawing awareness that you are responsible for your own life and you're not living it. He wrote that most people exist in what he called aesthetic existence, a mode of being where we chase pleasure, avoid pain, and distract ourselves from the deeper questions. We consume, we scroll, we work, we date, we buy things. Anything to avoid sitting alone with the question, who am I, really? And for most people that works. They live their entire lives without ever confronting themselves. But not you. You've looked, you've seen, and now you can't unsee. The pain of being awake in a sleeping world. You see things others don't. Not because you're special, but because you can't not see them. You notice the emptiness behind people's laughter, the performance in their confidence, the fear underneath their anger. You see the systems we've built to avoid being alone with ourselves. The distractions, the noise, the endless scrolling, the constant doing, and it exhausts you because you can't just be anymore. You can't sit at the table and pretend the conversation matters when it doesn't. You can't laugh at the joke when it's hiding something darker. You can't celebrate the promotion when you know it cost someone their peace. And people sense this in you. They feel judged, even when you say nothing, because your presence asks a question they don't want to answer. What are you running from? You walk through the world like a stranger. You see couples holding hands and wonder if they're happy or just afraid to be alone. You see friends laughing and wonder what they're not saying. You see success and wonder what was sacrificed for it. And you don't say these things out loud because you've learned that honesty isolates you, that depth is mistaken for negativity, that seeing clearly is called overthinking. So you stay quiet, you nod, you smile, you play along, but inside you're screaming because no one else seems to notice, no one else seems to care. And that's the loneliest feeling in the world. Not being alone, but being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. This is the burden Kierkegaard spoke of, the curse of consciousness, the price of awareness. And once you've paid it, there's no refund. The pain of feeling everything in a world that numbs. Other people can turn it off. The grief, the beauty, the horror, the love. They can compartmentalize. They can move on. They can not think about it. But you can't. When someone tells you they're fine, you hear the tremor in their voice. When the world celebrates, you feel the ones who are silently breaking. When you walk past a stranger, you wonder about their pain, their story, the weight they carry. You absorb it all, the sadness in someone's eyes at the grocery store, the quiet resignation in your coworker's voice, the desperation hidden beneath casual conversation. And it doesn't make you kind, it makes you tired. Because empathy without boundaries is just self-destruction. You feel for everyone. You carry their pain as if it were your own. And slowly, you forget where their suffering ends and yours begins. Kierkegaard spoke of infinite resignation, the ability to let go of the finite, the immediate, the shallow joys, in search of something deeper. But here's the cost. You become a stranger in your own life. You sit in rooms full of people and feel utterly alone. Not because they don't care, but because they can't reach you where you are. They're talking about vacation plans and Netflix shows. And you're thinking about mortality and meaning. They're worried about promotion. And you're wondering why any of it matters. And you can't bridge that gap. So you smile, you nod, you say you're fine. And the distance grows until you're standing right next to someone and feeling 1,000 miles away. The pain of knowing you're betraying yourself. This is the cruelest one. Because it's not something happening to you. It's something you're doing to yourself. You know the relationship is wrong, but you stay. You know the path you're on leads nowhere, but you keep walking. You know the person you're becoming isn't the person you wanted to be, but you let it happen anyway. Kierkegaard called this despair in defiance. It's when you know the truth, but choose against it. Not out of ignorance, out of fear. Fear of change, fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of who you'd have to become if you chose differently. And so you make the small compromises. You silence the voice inside that says, "This isn't right." You tell yourself, it's temporary, that you'll fix it later, that it's not that bad. But it is that bad. Because every day you betray yourself, you lose a little more of who you are. You become a ghost, present, but not alive, breathing, but not living. There's a moment, maybe you remember it, when you first felt this, when you first chose safety over truth, comfort over integrity, the mask over the face. And in that moment, something inside you broke, not loudly, quietly, like a hairline fracture in glass, invisible to everyone else. But you felt it, and every day since, that crack has grown. Every time you say yes, when you mean no. Every time you laugh at something that isn't funny. Every time you pretend to care about something you don't. The crack widens. And the worst part, no one sees it but you. Your friends think you're fine. Your family thinks you're doing well. Even the person you love thinks they know you, but they don't. Because the real you, the one who's suffocating beneath the performance, never gets to speak. The pain of freedom. You'd think freedom would feel like relief, but it doesn't. It feels like terror, because freedom means responsibility. It means you can't blame anyone else for your life. Not your parents, not your trauma, not the world. You are the author of your existence. And that's unbearable. Kierkegaard wrote, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. When you realize you can choose anything, the weight of that choice crushes you. What if you choose wrong? What if you waste your life? What if the person you become isn't worth the becoming?" So you freeze. You stay in the familiar pain, because at least it's known. You build a prison and call it safety. You create routines, habits, structures, anything to avoid confronting the terrifying openness of possibility. Because possibility means risk, and risk means potential failure. And failure means you can't hide behind excuses anymore. You have to face the truth. You are responsible for your choices, for your life, for who you become. And deep down, you know it. You know you're free, and you hate it, because freedom demands you become who you truly are. And that's the most terrifying thing in the world. The pain of not being understood. You try to explain it. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the weight of thinking too much, feeling too much, caring too much. And they say, just don't think about it. Everyone goes through stuff. You're overthinking. And they're not wrong, but they're not right either. Because this isn't overthinking. It's seeing. It's standing in a room and noticing the decay beneath the paint, the sadness beneath the smile, the despair beneath the "I'm fine." And you can't unsee it. You try to share what you see. You try to articulate the depth of what you feel. But words fail. Or worse, they succeed. And people look at you like you're broken, like you're too much, too intense, too deep, too serious. And so you learn to edit yourself. You learn which parts of you are acceptable, which thoughts you can share, which feelings you can express, and which ones you have to bury. Kierkegaard was alone most of his life, not because he wanted to be, but because his depth separated him. He wrote, "The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have." And that's it, isn't it? You grieve futures that were never real, connections that never formed, conversations that never happened, because no one understood, or worse, they understood, and they walked away. Because understanding you means confronting themselves, and most people aren't ready for that. The pain of longing for something you can't name. There's an ache in you, not for a person, not for a place, but for something you've never had. A wholeness you've never felt. A peace that seems impossible. Kierkegaard called it the sickness unto death. A despair so deep, it feels like part of your identity. It's the feeling that something is missing, not in your life, but in you, and nothing fills it. Not love, not success, not distraction. You keep searching. Relationships, projects, meaning, purpose. And for a moment, it works. For a moment, the ache quiets, but then it returns, stronger than before. Because the void isn't outside you, it's in you, and no external thing can heal an internal wound. The pain of knowing the answer and still not choosing it. Here's the unbearable truth. You already know what you need to do. You know which relationship to leave, which boundary to set, which mask to take off, which fear to face. You know, but knowing and doing are oceans apart. Because doing means loss. Doing means stepping into the unknown. Doing means becoming responsible for your own existence, and that's terrifying. Kierkegaard wrote, "The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays." It's not about answers, it's about transformation. And transformation requires you to die to who you were, to let go of the familiar suffering, to choose the terrifying freedom of authenticity. And most people can't do it. Not because they're weak, but because it costs everything. Every relationship built on pretense. Every identity constructed from fear. Every story you've told yourself to avoid the truth. It all has to go. And what's left? You, raw, honest, vulnerable. Just you. So where does that leave you? Sitting with these pains, carrying them like stones in your chest. Kierkegaard didn't promise you relief. He promised you honesty. He said the only way out is through the despair, through the self-betrayal, through the loneliness. Not by fixing it, but by owning it. By saying, yes, this is my life, and I am responsible for it. Not in shame, but in freedom. Because once you stop running from yourself, something shifts. The pain doesn't disappear, but it becomes bearable. Because it's yours. And in owning it, you reclaim yourself. You stop being a ghost. You start being a person. Flawed, wounded, honest, but alive. Not perfect, not fixed, but present. Finally, achingly, terrifyingly present. And maybe that's all any of us can hope for. Not happiness, not peace, but the quiet courage to face ourselves. To sit with our pain without running. To choose authenticity over comfort. To become, slowly and painfully, who we actually are. Not who we wish we were. Not who others want us to be. But who we are, beneath all the masks. Beneath all the fear. Beneath all the pretending. Just us. And in their terrifying simplicity, there's something like grace. Not salvation, but recognition. The recognition that you are enough. Even in your brokenness. Even in your despair. Even in your loneliness. You are enough. And maybe, just maybe, that's where freedom actually begins.